Hey guys, it's Dani. Today I'm gonna share with you my beautiful Miltonia plus Aliceara collection. Now, Miltonias and Alicearas are in the Oncidium alliance, which is one of my favorite alliances. I'm not gonna say it's my favorite because, oh, I do love the kitties as well. But from the vast Oncidium alliance, I have to say Alicearas are my favorite, and what makes them my favorite are two of the species that have been crossed together to obtain them. These are the Miltonias and Brassias, which I really like, and I'm actively building a collection of them. So I'm going to show you my entire Aliceara plus Miltonia, and I think Brassia as well. I only have one of them actually. I'm not going to go into the Bertonias, because that's a different thing. Bonus, many of them are starting to spike and flower. It is their season. So with that said, maybe this video will give you some ideas for your wish list, because these guys are really not hard to grow. They are pretty tolerant. All they like or they require is for you to be on top of watering, which you'll see in some cases I wasn't very on top. But still, they don't hate me all that much, which says a lot. So with that said, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it, and why not subscribe? It is free and I post 3 times a week. First, let's start with the orchid you saw at the beginning. This is the beautiful Aliceara Tahoma Glacier. It is one of the more popular Alicearas, and I do have her for quite a while now. But as I was saying, these guys really enjoy their water, and as it just so happens, we had, I think, the hottest September in 60 years or something of the sorts, I don't know. It feels like summer is never ending, and it's not so much the daytime, but the nighttime, which is super warm as well. For the first time, I experienced a yellow alert for temperatures in the nighttime. Can you even believe that? Anyway, so you will see with some of these orchids, not only with their leaves but also on their flowers, some, let's say, stress signs. This is due to dehydration. I have been trying to be on top of watering so much, but yeah, I got tired too after so many months of summer, and I just cannot be on top all the time. So what you see here, the edging of the flowers, that drying out and the unfurliness of it all, those are signs of dehydration and me just not staying on top of watering. But it's okay. It's the first time this orchid actually does that. I have her for a while, so I'm not worried. It's not an ailment of sorts. It's just stress. One thing you should know with most Alicearas, if not all of them, is that they have a peppery fragrance. And this scent comes from the Brassias in their parentage. So scent-wise, I wouldn't expect much. Some people really enjoy the scent. Not my personal thing. I enjoy how they look like. They're all so elegant and beautiful. Next up here we have a variant of the Tahoma Glacier. I don't know if it has a different name. This one is identical to what you saw earlier, but the flower looks a little bit more colorful. There's a lot more red to it. This is one that we saved last year in my Oncidium hauls. And with this one I do have past footage, which if I do have footage, I will show it to you on the screen. If I don't, I will use the Blue Nanta website, which I will link you to down below. With this one though, I do have images. It is pretty much identical in all the ways, including fragrance. This one is just a little bit more set back, as I was saying. It's a rescue from last year. And really, I haven't seen it around a lot, but keep your eyes peeled in flower shops because this is where I found this particular one. Next here we have the Aliceara Peggy Ruth Carpenter, which is yet another very popular Aliceara hybrid. This one has been a little bit set back. It suffered in its previous pot, and I repotted her recently, so the new growth is not as majestic as the older one, but I do see that I have a flower spike developing. So that's good. The flowers on this one are a nice pale pink. They're not as robust as the Tahoma Glacier. They have more of a star shape, a little bit more delicate. I love this particular one, but I have to say I prefer the gem version better. Speaking about it, let me just show it to you now. There she is. This is the Aliceara Peggy Ruth Carpenter gem, and she really is a gem. Up until now, I've never had a vigorous one. This one is though. It's one that we saved last year, and already I think I need to repot it. It will grow out of the pot. I also see a flower spike here, which is so exciting because the flowers on this one are quite different. Again, it has that star shape to the flowers, but the color is a really nice purple, and you guys know me, I'm not a fan of purple. I love this one. I adore it, and I'm so happy to have a vigorous one. I would say she's a little bit too vigorous. She grew very fast. Look at this pseudobulb in the back here. If this one grows to the same size, I'm gonna have to choose a very big pot for her. Next here we have one that we recently saw, and you will see a little bit more of it with the longer spike she had this month at the end of the month when we're gonna recap the orchids in bloom. This is Aliceara Hilo or Hilo Ablaze Hilo Gold, and oh boy, she's beautiful. The flower shape is quite different than the others. It does still have that star shape to it, but I feel like it's slightly peloric. I'm not entirely sure, but look at the shape of the petals and the lip. The pattern is not the same, but the shape is. So I am thinking there's a little bit of peloria going on there with this hybrid, but I have to agree, in person, it is a wonderful looking Aliceara. I think you're starting to see why I really like these hybrids. Next up, we have an Aliceara that doesn't look so good. It is a very recent purchase, and it's one that partakes in the experiment with the cocoa choir. And I have to say that this clay pot is giving me such a headache. This orchid is drying out so fast. So I will make an update soon on that project and replace this pot because I hate it. Anyway, the poor orchid is actually throwing off a little flower spike here. I would not expect grand things from it. But funnily enough, the Eurostar was actually my first ever Aliceara. And in my opinion, it's not really the best looking one, but hey, you know what? It did the trick. I fell in love with it. Maybe not so much with the flower, although it was indeed something new for me, but with the Aliceara's behavior itself. Do you guys have this sensation that certain orchids do have a very different personality, quote unquote, than others? I definitely do, and I feel like Alicearas have their own little quote unquote, again, personality, and I love it. So this hybrid is the reason why I love Alicearas so much. So you just know I have to have it in my collection, even though it's not the most beautiful one. Next up, another Aliceara which comes from the Oncidium haul from last year. As you can see, the flowers are already spent, but don't you worry, I already filmed them. I'm gonna show them to you at the end of the month, but I'll give you a little spoiler now. This is more of a Brassica looking like type of Aliceara, but other than that, she behaves like an Aliceara and smells like one. And I just realized I didn't tell you the name. This is Aliceara Torrero, which is a hybrid that I didn't see very often in flower shops. I definitely started to see it more often in the last year. So who knows, maybe it's a new hybrid. The only thing that I dislike about this one is that the petals tend to pull back. It would be so nice and so star-shaped if they wouldn't do so, and for a brief half an hour, when the flower opens, they do stay wide open and then they just pull back. It is interesting nonetheless, and I love it. She's very vigorous, and I'm trying to appreciate the flowers for what they are. They are very spidery and wild, rather than elegant. Next up here is the Aliceara Snowblind, which again, it's a save from last year, and oh boy, she's such a vigorous hybrid. The latest pseudobulb, this one grew very nice, and then the pot became riddled with roots. This girl dries out in a day. I absolutely need to repot her already. I wish I had gone for a bigger pot from the beginning, but you know, sometimes it is trial and error with orchids you've never had before. So as a consequence of me not staying on top of watering, we have a wrinkled pseudobulb and a new growth, which looks a little sad. So yeah, I will have to intervene very soon, but the Snowblind is a beautiful white type of Aliceara, which is super elegant. It's a big orchid though, and it grows really fast. Much faster than you would expect. I mean, in 1 year, she doubled in size, which is great. She's vigorous. Not so great if you didn't expect it and you potted it in a very tiny pot, which I did, and I really don't know if this new growth will bloom very beautifully for me. I can see a lot of leaf pleating, but it is what it is. Now, I know for the future, but do keep that in mind. Keep an eye on the root system because it might take over the pot sooner than you think. Next up, let's look at a Miltonia. Since we're on this shelf, I don't actually have a lot of Miltonias, but this one is one of my favorites. It is the Sandy's Cove, and I think you can tell why I like it so much. I like yellow and purple or magenta contrasts. And I think you can see where the Alicearas take that beautiful star shape. It's the Miltonia side. Even though this is a hybrid as well, it is a joy to grow. It is a vigorous grower. It blooms really readily and it's very rewarding. Plus, it doesn't grow very tall. However, though, the rhizome is pretty long, and what I had to do this year with it is pot it into a rather shallow but wide pot, which will accommodate for the very long rhizome. Other than that, she really is a joy to grow. But yeah, Miltonians do have this tendency to have pretty long rhizomes. So if you can from the get-go, better to go for a shallow but wide pot. Next up, here's another Miltonia that I really like, a little bit similar to the Sandy's Cove. This is Peter Comp, and I actually purchased this Miltonia because of its fragrance. And guess what? Mine is really not all that fragrant. I think I can detect a little sweet fragrance, but nothing like what people describe, so kind of sucks for me, but it's okay. We all detect fragrance differently, and it's bound to happen to find an orchid which I simply cannot detect the scent of, which is sad, but it happens. Anyway, I learned to appreciate this Miltonia for the beautiful flowers, which again look very, very wild. And even though, do you see that purple burgundy color on the lip? Yeah, I don't like that one. It's not my color. This is what I refer to when I say that I don't really like purple. This dark purple, it's not my thing. I don't know why. I wish I liked it, but I don't. It's not my favorite Miltonia, but the flower itself is really beautiful, and it's such a vigorous grower. I think you can find it pretty easy. It's a very common orchid, and it's worth it, really. And especially if you love this color, you're gonna like this. I mean, it's pretty velvety, I'm not gonna lie, it's beautiful. I just wish I liked the color and detected the fragrance. Next up, we have the Miltonia Honolulu, which we saw in bloom last month, so I'm gonna insert footage from then. See, this type of purple I do like. It's vivid, it's happy, it's warm, and in reality, it really is that bright. So being that it's a Miltonia hybrid, again, we have that issue with the long rhizome. Hence, this orchid needs repotting. And I think I will sacrifice the transparency of the pot for the functionality of something which is wide and shallow. These being very vigorous hybrids, I don't really need to keep an eye on the root system. I'm already very well acquainted with Miltonias, and I know this is a vigorous one, so I really don't need to see the root system, but I really do need to find some sort of wide pot, because this is just not functional at all. Next up, this little poor looking thing right here. And by the way, if you know my channel, you know that I don't go out of my way to prettify my orchids just to impress you on video. I'm gonna show you reality. Sometimes, yes, I do cut away these dried leaf edges, but sometimes, no. I don't want to give you false expectations. Some orchids will have this, particularly if you're not on top of watering. And this Aliceara, for me, has been the most finicky one that I have. This is not a vigorous one. This is the Marfitch Howard Stream, which is a beautiful Aliceara. I've always wanted it, and I've tried it with a couple of individuals that didn't make it. This one is still surviving, and it's looking pretty okay. We also have a little flower spike which was caught in between the leaves. I saw it in time and I released it. But yeah, look at that. Compare something like this with the Snowblind or the Peggy Ruth Carpenter gem, and you'd say, oh, but these are not the same type of orchids. One is having the time of her life and one looks like it's about to give up on everything. And yeah, that's how it is. Although they both get the same treatment, reside in the same room, it's just the difference between the hybrids. And for me, the Marfitch has always been very, very finicky. Maybe it's a problem with the tissue culture they have and that they keep propagating. Maybe I just had a lot of bad luck, but I've never had a vigorous Marfitch. Did you guys have? Let me know in a comment down below. One that has been a pretty good girl for me so far is the Aliceara Patricia Macaulay. This is one that we saved last year, and in the meantime it actually bloomed once, so I do have some flowers to show you. It's a really beautiful purple, yet again hybrid, but it's that purple that I like. It's more of a lavender color. I love the pattern, the dots on the blooms. They're so cute. This is the second pseudobulb that matures. Again, I could have done a better job with watering it, but it's okay. She's not really giving me so many headaches. And now she has a flower spike and a few buds developing. All I need to do is just water it a little bit more often. Other than that, we don't have issues. Next up, this is my oldest Aliceara at this point. I think she's 5 or 6 years with me already at this point. It's the very same one you keep seeing on my channel for the past, I think, 6 years. It's from the balcony days. It went through the country moves, through the fusarium, through the spider mites, through everything. And it's still around. Lately though, she went from semi-hydro, which she kind of really hated, to the organic setup, and she's not super established just yet. You can see the roots just going down. Hence, she will have another setback, but it's okay. So here is what I was talking about with the trapped flower spike, which happens when orchids are a little bit dehydrated. You see in between the leaves a little snake looking like flower spike? Yeah, this guy sometimes can get so trapped in there that you're going to completely lose the buds. So you have to be super extra gentle. And there you go, that's all you need to do. You don't need to super straighten it up, you just need to release it. And then it will find its way, and probably we're not gonna have such a beautiful bloom show this year, but it's okay. This orchid has bloomed multiple times for me in the past. I know her well, we understand each other, she forgives me most of the times. Well, she has no other choice, but yeah, for me, semi-hydro and Alicearas, oh no, not a good combination at all in this climate. I'm having issues in sphagnum moss and bark, let alone something else, which maybe will lead me to try some self-watering things in the future. I don't know, we're gonna see. You guys know me, if something isn't as good as I can make it, I'm gonna keep trying stuff until I find the perfect recipe. So yeah, as you can see, some of them really fuss about the fact that I didn't water them, which is really valid with all Alicearas that I have, and it's definitely something you should keep in mind if you want to grow these plants. Next up, an Aliceara that we rescued last year. It's part of that really big Oncidium haul. I have to tell you guys though, I have no idea who she is. Aliceara Holmes North Star. The name does not tell me anything, which means I need to Google it really fast so that I know what to tell you about it. All right, good thing I Googled it because I lied. This is not one we saved last year. I have this one for a couple of years already or so, and it was mislabeled. I received it from one of you lovely people with a different name, which I don't remember at the moment, and then it bloomed unexpectedly different, and I managed to identify it as the Holmes North Star. But ever since then, it didn't bloom again because, well, semi-hydro happened and she lived through it and got to tell the story, but didn't bloom so far. So that's why I didn't see her flowers recently. But I do have the most beautiful new growths this year. They look very nice. Oh, she looks a little dehydrated. Oh, and she is! What is this super airy medium that I provided here? I need to add more sphagnum moss. See, being that she's older in my collection, she's among the first that I converted again to organic, and I made too much of an airy medium, and she's not very hydrated at the moment, but hey, trial and error. So I'm hoping that these new growths will bloom because the flowers are really, really beautiful. Next up, this is the Aliceara Pacific Nova Okika. It's not the one that I used to have many, many years ago. It's one that you lovely people sent to me, and it didn't actually get to bloom just yet, but I'm hoping that this new growth will bloom. Again, with this one, we have what you would call a little bit of a root-bound situation and issue going on. I can water this one today and actually leave water in the container, and she would drink it all up until tomorrow, and that is never fun. So again, you see what I mean? I think a self-watering setup would do the trick. Maybe I can get some white deltinis and try some stuff. Ooh, okay. Cooking up some ideas for future projects. But yeah, this one looks a little bit more like a Brassica. She has a really nice golden bright flower that I absolutely adore, but she can be a monster. And I remember my old one was the exact same way. She just took over the pot super fast. Not to mention she has really tall pseudobulbs and tall leaves. So with something like this, I wouldn't do what I did. But yeah, I forgot how she behaves. It's been 7 years. Next up, this is the beautiful Aliceara Renaissance Coral with a not so beautiful anomaly of a flower spike here. And what I think happened was that a secondary spike fused together with the main spike and created this. She has an excuse, and I will pinpoint it on that, which is actually my fault. I used some seaweed fertilizer because why not? I knew something like this could happen. I just thought it wouldn't, but it did. See, if you're not careful with seaweed fertilizers, which contain plant hormones, you can have deformed flowers. Now, I think I respected the instructions on the bottle, but either I totally messed up on the dosage, either that particular additive wasn't what my orchids needed. So I had a lot of issues with deformed buds this spring. I'm happy to say that the vast majority of them are blooming nicely now, so the effect went away. But I will say that someone on my Discord channel told me they had the exact same thing happening from a seaweed fertilizer. So I'd be very, very careful with plant hormones from these types of fertilizers. I personally don't need them. I'm not gonna use them. This might very well be my problem. Maybe I really misuse the product. That can happen as well. I'm human, I do mistakes. I doubt it though. But yeah, for me, seaweed fertilizers are a no-no. So for now, I will pinpoint this on that fertilizer. You can see I had another flower spike here which had issues as well. So it's not necessarily only this flower spike, but we'll see next year what happens. Next up, we have a Miltonia. This is a super popular Miltonia, which is not a very finicky orchid, but this particular one gave me some headaches. This is the Miltonia Sunset, which I had in very good condition for a while, and then something happened. I'm not entirely sure what. I did have a lot of pest issues on this particular one, more than others. You can see the grazing here. I'm on top of that, and the orchid seems to put out quite a nice root system, but you can see in the pot there's nothing much. I'm not expecting flowers or anything grand from this orchid. There is a very high chance she has some issues because I know the Miltonia Sunset, she's not supposed to act like this. For now though, I am taking care of this one and see where it goes, but she has been acting pretty peculiar, I have to say, and she has been attracting all of the pests. Although there are quite a lot of orchids around her, they all went to this one. That's peculiar, isn't it? Okay, we're approaching the end of the video. These are two Miltonias that are not vigorous at all for me. First of all, this one, it's a no ID. I'm not entirely sure what it is. It has been sold under a name that doesn't really fit with the description, so I'm just gonna call her a no ID. It looks like a species, but I'm not entirely sure. So this one I bought from eBay quite a while ago, and she really doesn't want to grow all that fast. But hey, we have some blooms this year. Other than that, I cannot say she's excelling way too much. And here we have the Miltonia Yellow, which again is a no ID. I don't know what it is. I really like it, but again, she's not vigorous at all. Especially when you have the other ones next to it and they just grow and grow, and this one sits and thinks about the meaning of life, pretty much. Now, this is my mistake right here. I managed to lose the middle leaf and it will create new growth, but she was really unhappy with me for making the annual spider mite treatment and probably forgetting a little bit of water here in the crown. But she is a bit of a diva. I don't like her attitude, but hey, what to do? I'm gonna do the best I can and you're gonna have to do with that. And that is about it for today. I am sure I have some others that I forgot, or maybe I don't have a proper ID for them and they're not really obvious that they're Alicearas. But this is the bulk of my Miltonia and Aliceara collection, which I really like. As you can see, very varying individuals. Some are super vigorous, some really hate my face, but hey, what to do, that's how it goes. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!